Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Blog Talk Radio.
Northwest Liberty News, picking the lock on the shackles of tyranny.
Machines are going to fail, and the system's going to fail.
The past is past, the future's now.
Don't look at me. I think these people are completely nuts.
Sometimes trouble just follows a man.
There is another organism on this planet that follows the same pattern. Do you know what it is? A virus.
Can't you stop your lips from flapping for 2 little minutes?
Because I'm white.
I'm a man. I'm sensitive. I need to feel loved. I need to be desired.
I'm rapidly becoming a big underground success in this town.
It's a question of methods. Everybody wants results, but nobody wants to do what they have to do to get them done.
And now, coming to you live from Kalispell, Montana, brought to you by Northwest Liberty News, it's Montana Gazette Radio with your host, James White. Okay, so I'm your host, James White. This is Montana Gazette Radio. Thanks so much for joining us here today on the broadcast. I'm going to admit our guest into the Zoom room, and we'll be joining him here in just a moment. Thanks so much for tuning in today on this show. We're gonna have a great show today. We're gonna have Steve Wagner on. We're talking about tactical civics. It's gonna be a great time. Let me get this set up here and take myself off of this view. And we will have Steve here in just a moment. This is James White again. This is the 25th day of March 2021. And we do appreciate you joining us here on the broadcast. This is Montana Gazette Radio. And if you want to find out all the latest news and information that's going on in Montana, you can go to MontanaDailyGazette.com, MontanaDailyGazette.com. We're going to be talking today about tactical civics. We have see if I can bring it up here on the website. We'll just get this on the website here first. We'll pop that up as a precursor. The tactical civics, I've had David Zaninga on the show before, and we're going to be talking tactical civics because it's more timely than ever here, folks. I'm not sure if you're familiar with what happened yesterday on the at the Ninth Circuit, where they decided it's not proper or lawful for Americans, I believe, to carry guns outside their home, or some other harebrained ruling from the Ninth Circuit. What else can you expect? But we've got Steve on the show with us today. We're going to talk about tactical civics and really how we can utilize that to take this country, folks, because we're a nation in peril right now. I mean, we are a nation in peril. We know this. And we do appreciate your support here on the show. Without further delay, we're going to bring Steve on and have him go ahead and give a bit on himself. Steve, go ahead and unmute that microphone if you don't mind. And what we'll do is we'll pull you over here.
Okay.
Hey, man, how you
Does
doing?
that work?
Yeah, it works. Let me pull you over here. And there you go. You are here with us. Thanks so very much for being here. We do appreciate it. And boy, what a time we're in, Steve. I tell you what, why don't you give us a little bit of background on yourself, if you can here. I know for those people that, a lot of people are tuning in, new people are tuning in all the time. Why don't you just give us a brief background on yourself, and we'll go from there, and we welcome you to the show.
Well, thank you, Jim. Well, first and foremost, I am a follower of Jesus Christ, the Lord of Lords, the King of Kings. His rule is joy, love, peace, and I'm a husband of one wife for 50-some years, father of 5, and grandfather of lots more. And I've been a businessman all my life, and I will turn that phone off. I'm sorry. And like most Americans, not terribly happy with the way things go from Washington, D.C. I don't think it really matters what letters behind your name, if there is one, a D or an R or an I or something else. Anybody that has much common sense and has anything really going for them in their life and like to build things, build a life that they can enjoy. Most are not real happy with what's become of the United States governmental system. So I got involved in tactical civics after swearing off of being involved in much of anything for 20 years or 30 years, except raising my family. I'm involved in Christian ministry at various levels. So that's what's taken my time and energies over the course of the last couple decades. But when I first got involved or got to looking at tactical civics, I immediately recognized that this was a restoration of our organic law, which is important to know. This is not some new thing to overthrow the government or, push a political agenda on people. It's a restoration of our organic system of law and governance, and it's comprehensive, it's peaceable, it's lawful, and it just marked off everything that's important to me as a man, as a father, as a neighbor, and as a follower of Jesus. So I got involved, signed up on Christmas Day last year, and I'm very excited about the possibilities.
Just want to make a quick program note here before before we go on. For those of you that are wondering, maybe tuning in here, we've been kicked off of YouTube once again. We just got back off a 1-week YouTube jail. They kicked me off immediately afterwards after I came back on and just broadcast one show yesterday. So I'm off for 2 weeks now. I don't suppose I'll be back on YouTube again any longer. I have a Rumble channel, and I believe I'm going to create a Montana Gazette radio channel on Rumble as well and upload the videos there. But I just want to make a program note and let you know that I'm off of YouTube for sure for the next 2 weeks. And that's Steve, that ties into everything else that you're talking about. I mean, we don't have freedom of speech anymore. I mean, it's outlandish. It's outlandish what's going on here in this country. It's because patriots, not necessarily patriots, I think patriots have been fighting for a while, but other people have just been distracted and been captured. And this is where we're at these days, and it's a fallen world. It's a fallen, captured world. And, the evil is going to take advantage of it when they can, and they always do. What's the saying? Never let a good crisis go to waste. That's sort of their mantra, as you know. Let's get down to, if we can, down to tactical civics. Let's talk, if we can, about that. And, I have to say, I said this, I think, yesterday on the show or the day before. I have a guest in from out of town, and I was delighted to hear that they are, one of my guests came in, and her son, back where they're from, they go every week to a Constitution class and learn about the Constitution, and that's growing and growing. There's classes here in Kalispell every Thursday evening here at the Red Lion, which I think you've probably been to and familiar with here in Kalispell. I think you've been to Kalispell a few times. They have classes every Thursday night, and they talk about the Constitution. This is a popular thing now, is it not, Steve? Our not that we get our rights from the Constitution, but they're God-given rights. We don't get our rights from government. We don't have to get permission from the government to breathe fresh air and those type of things. So I'm just going to have you kick off Tactical Civics, give us a background on it, and let us know how we can utilize it to get rid of this tyranny that we're under right now, Steve. Over to you.
Well, Tactical Civics is the work of about 30 or 40 volunteers, researchers, writers, and thinkers that have been working a dozen or so years on putting together this plan of action, is what you might call it. It's nothing terribly new. Tactical Civics is really just has organized some major law keeping aspects of our existing civil order and roll them out in a very easy to understand and very well-designed plan to do what we the people should have been doing for the last 5 or 6 generations, and that is holding our civil servants to the law. Now, the U.S. Constitution is the highest human law in our republic, and in that law, we the people created, we defined, and we limited 3 branches of a federal system of servants, and we only gave them 17 things to do. And everything else we reserved to the states or we the people. Well, obviously, they're doing way, way more than 17 things. 17,000 would probably be an underestimated number. So it's time to recover our original system, pick up the task of basically ruling over that which we created rather than expecting it to rule itself. And so tactical civics has basically a 3-pronged approach to doing this. The first one, and the one I'm so very much excited about, is finishing ratifying what would have been our original First Amendment right, and that is setting a U.S. House districts to be no more than 50,000 people. That got 11 or 12 ratifications in the early days, the 1800s. Like another amendment that was rolled out in the original list of amendments that became our Bill of Rights, what would have been the original Second Amendment, was ratified, I believe, in 1982 finally, and that's what we know as the 27th Amendment. So we have what would become the 28th Amendment sitting there basically dormant. Tactical Civics has picked it up, and we're rolling it out, and we intend to finish the ratification process by getting it ratified by 26, I believe, more states. So that's the first prong. And the second 2 are county-based, and they work by the citizenry in the county, and those are our historic law enforcement mechanisms, the grand jury, and the militia power of the people. Now, the grand jury and the militia power of the people, these concepts and ideas are older than the United States, older than the colonial settlement of America. They go way, way back. The grand jury was first appeared in 997 AD, and the citizens' militia first appeared in around 1014. So these are part of what forms the common law on which the Declaration of Independence and our Constitution rest. So they're both kind of a little scary to people who don't know much about them, the history, the law, and how they are supposed to work. But we are engaging in an educational campaign to correct that as best we can. And there's a ton of good educational materials on Tactical Civics website, and it's there for anybody to look at, download, and as you're saying, a lot of new interest in our organic Constitution, our organic law, and it's so neat to see young people finally being trained and taught such matters, because I certainly wasn't.
You know, I'm going to have you comment on this here for a minute, Steve, this article here, then we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll come back in the other side and pick back up. But I want to go over to this article here that's reposted on Montana Daily Gazette. This is originally from Breitbart. Feds move towards full spectrum dominance over individual states. And you see down here, this is from Schumer, the laws, their various cousins in Republican state legislatures across the country, are one of the greatest threats we have to modern democracy in America, Schumer declared before citing the Washington Post. So he says the Republican state legislatures across the country are one of the greatest threats we have to a modern democracy in America. How would you comment to the Honorable Chuck Schumer? How would you respond to him, Steve, on that comment?
Well, he's absolutely right. But who wants a modern democracy? If you want a modern democracy, I guess you'd be a buddy of Chuck Schumer's and say, right on, and I agree. It's not just the Republican legislature, it's people who have a respect for our founding documents, which Chuck Schumer swore to obey, uphold, and defend. These guys are lawbreakers. If you don't want to obey that law, then don't take the oath and don't put yourself under that duty to obey that law. These guys are oath breakers, they're law breakers. Now, everybody talks about the Constitution as the highest law in the land, but then they just shrug it off as if you can ignore it or violate it with impunity. Now, if we took, who in this audience would like to see the statutes of their particular state just ignored with impunity by anyone and everyone that can get away with it? I wouldn't. That would be chaotic. It'd be total anarchy. But it seems that public officials feel like they have a license to ignore the law, and they manipulate the law to favor them and disfavor anybody that's not them. So, this has gone too far, and it's gotten this way because we, the people, have not done what our founders had set in place for us to do. We have not done our duty. We haven't done the chores, as David Zeninga says. So it's just a matter, these guys are fuming and fussing, Chuck Schumer and the like. I see this as just the death throes of a runaway corporatocracy, a criminal syndicate running the show. And somebody has to stand up and stop it, and that falls to you and me and our fellow citizens. So there's a lot of people that don't understand how to get this done, and that's what Tactical Civics is to educate and train citizenry who want to stand up and do our duty, which as Americans, that's the only way we're going to fix this. So
it's our duty. You're correct. Duty to overthrow tyrants when they get themselves in position of power through our own through our own complacency. These are the cycles of empire, right? We become complacent.
Exactly. And I can't imagine anybody with any decency and common sense and intellectual integrity that likes what's coming out of Washington, D.C. I think there's a lot of people that are fearful of change, period. And so they might just be going along to get along and hoping for the best. But that's usually a situation where, they're hoping that they get eaten last.
Yeah, right. Hope is not a good long-term.
Not a good thing.
Not a good plan. Hope is not a long-term plan. Good long-term plan. Okay, so Steve, we're going to take a quick break here and hit some commercials. But before we do, why don't you give us out your websites, any pages, Facebook pages, any email addresses you have, any YouTube channels, anything like that you have that you want to give out to the folks where they can find out more about Tactical Civics. And we'll give you a chance to give those out, and then we'll go ahead and take a break. We'll come back and talk about American Militia 2.0. Evan Vieira, first times. I'm sure you're probably familiar with Evan Vieira and his work, and we can talk about that and much, much more on the other side. Steve, go ahead and take us out to the break here with websites and pages and places that people can find out more about you and your work.
Well, that won't take me very long because I'm not that internet savvy, but tacticalcivics.com is the best place to start for anybody that wants to find out what this is about. Tacticalcivics, all one word, .com. Be careful. There's some other websites that have the same sound to it, but if you just type in tacticalcivics.com, you'll go to the right place. After you take a look at that starting place, if you click on community, it'll take you to the training page, the Tactical Civics Training Center, and you can download for free a lot of resources, books, articles, blog posts that will easily just take you right through and answer any question that you have. They are much better spokesmen than I. So
we're going to take a quick commercial break here, and we come back on the other side. We're going to pick it back up with Steve here. We're going to talk about the militia, which just took a beating here back. Of course, if you folks remember, those of you that are old enough, remember the Oklahoma City bombing here that I think it was back in 1995 or 6. They really demonized the militia because militia was making a move then to sort of pull people together, and Michigan militias specifically, but militias across the country, even out west here certainly, because people realized it was coming, and then they pulled off that, in my view, the false flag, or it was an operation at the Oklahoma City Murrow building, but that's another topic for another show, and I've done shows on that before. But what happened after that is the militia, you couldn't even use the term for 10 years or 15 years after that event, or you were considered anti-American, I suppose. It's amazing how they flipped the script on us. We're going to talk about that and other things when we get back with Steve on the other side of the break. Steve, I'm going to go ahead and mute your microphone, and then when we get back, we'll pick this up with the militia and much more on with Steve Wagner from Tactical Civics. We'll be back after these brief messages. I'm your host, James White, MontanaGazetteRadio.com, MontanaGazetteRadio.com, or MontanaDailyGazette.com. We'll be back after these brief messages. If you like classic cars, exceptional service, and a money-back guarantee, then the Corner Shop in beautiful downtown Kalispell is the place for you. Whether it's an oil change, engine diagnostic, suspension work, or brakes all around, the Corner Shop has you covered. With expert technicians and a free consultation on all services, you can't go wrong with the Corner Shop. Did I mention the classic cars? While you're waiting for your expert service to be performed, take a stroll through the showroom to see Kalispell's smoothest collection of classic cars. The Corner Shop is conveniently located at 1212 South Main, just south of the courthouse. The Corner Shop is open Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. till 5 p.m., so drop by for an appointment or call 755-7777. That's 755-7777. The Corner Shop, Kalispell's full-service auto repair facility. Hi, this video is brought to you by PatriotPrepared.com, where right now you can save $250 on each large package purchase, plus get free shipping to the continental United States. In these troubled times, it's not a bad idea to have some extra food storage available, and you can save big at Patriot Prepared right now. Go to PatriotPrepared.com, that's PatriotPrepared.com, and use the code TRUMP250 at checkout to receive your savings today. Thanks so much for holding on up to the break, folks. I'm James White, your host here, and this is Montana Gazette Radio, coming to you live from Kalispell, Montana, here on this 25th day of March 2021. If you want to support this show, you can go to MontanaGazetteRadio.com, MontanaGazetteRadio.com, and what we're going to be doing on that channel is we're going to be streaming this show live on MontanaGazetteRadio.com. It'll go right to the page on Montana Daily Gazette, and we're going to stream this show live because they're going to be taking us down, I'm sure, on YouTube here soon. So we're just going to go work around that because we're in a war. We're in a war on many fronts, and our ability to speak freely is one of those fronts. So that's what happens in a war. There's casualties, and they take your channel down, and all kinds of other things. So you continue to support this show. We do appreciate that, passing these videos around to all the different platforms. If you can upload them, you have permission to upload them to the platform. Doesn't matter to me. I'm not looking for this for the money. I'm just looking to get the word out. So pass it around, get the word out, and we appreciate that. And of course, you can always go to the flagship northwestlibertynews.com if you want to support us that way. And we do certainly appreciate your support. Okay, we're going to get back to Steve Wagner here. We're talking about tactical civics. We're going to bring him back on the line here and unmute his, ask him to unmute his microphone and bring him back. Steve, thanks so much for joining us here. There you are. Thanks for hanging on up to the break, Steve. We really appreciate it. Yeah, we're in a, there's a, as I was saying in the lead in here, we're in a multi-front battle. This battle is on many, there's a culture war going on. There's a battle against our Second Amendment. There's a battle against, God, which has been going on, and Christians, which has been going on. That's just perpetual. That never ends. Now we have the free speech issue. You just saw here where two sitting senators yesterday in the hearing told, I forget who it was, they were talking to somebody, but said somebody in the Biden administration, they're not going to approve any more nominees that are not minority or LGBT, which is it's a total violation of the Constitution. It's a total violation of the Constitution. But they openly said it here this is like some sort of a bizarre Kafkaesque circus, a cosmic circus that's been off the rails or something that we're participating in here, Steve. Before we continue and go on and talk about the militia and these things, just give me your overall view on the madness that we're experiencing with men playing in women's sports, smashing records, like all-time records. They're breaking records just unbelievable, right? This happening all over. And that's okay to people. That's like okay. It's like there's a disconnect. What's going on, Steve? Give us some sanity here in this mad world.
Well, I don't know that I can give any sanity to that mad world because they've gone completely off the rails. I tell people, use this analogy all the time. Most everybody is listening either was a kid or grew up in a family with kids or had kids. Picture a couple parents having a few children and then just neglect their discipline for years and years and years. What happens? Before long, the kids are running the house. They're misbehaving. They're, fighting with each other and fighting with anyone else. They're wrecking things and wasting things. No discipline. Okay. So when the parents are complaining about the situation of now they've got teenagers that are, wrecking the car and, costing mom and dad legal bills and running the family bankrupt, and they complain to their friends, the parents complain to their friends, and the friends go, well, we've been watching for years, decades, you've never disciplined them all, you never said no, you never reined them in at all, so what do you expect? That's what we've got with this government in Washington, D.C. We've got 100 years of citizen neglect. We, the people, expected these teenagers to, rein themselves in. Do you know any gang of teenagers that rein themselves in that are a bunch of derelicts and troublemakers? And, they don't rein themselves in. It takes some external force to grab them by the nape of the neck and start making them behave. So that's kind of what we have. It's been going this way for a long, long time, Jim. I got politically active back in my early mid-20s. I ended up running for a state office many, many years ago. After being politically active, what I would do, I would go to all kinds of political people running for office, and I'd ask them, have you read and studied the U.S. the U.S. Constitution and the Constitution of our state? And most of the times, almost all the time, I would get, well, we studied it in high school. All right. I took a business law class in college or something like that. I said, so you're saying you really haven't read or studied the U.S. Constitution or the state constitution? Well, no, not really. I said, well, the very first act of you being sworn in is you're going to be taking a solemn oath to obey, uphold, and defend these two documents. Let me ask you, sir, ma'am, how are you going to do that when you don't even know what's in them, know what's required of you? Well, that was, almost 100% was their answer. That was almost 100% of the conversations I'd have with dozens upon dozens of people running for offices. Well, it's so good now. We are on the mend. I know it sounds bad, it looks bad out there, but nowadays people are studying the Constitution. We're talking 40 years from when I started. Constitution classes, like you mentioned, are all over the place. It's very easy to get a hold of constitutions or join online law and constitution government classes that are really good quality. We have access to things at our fingertips, and these young people are making good use of it. Goodness sake, it's their life that they're talking about, and they're very excited about learning how to have a responsible system of civil government. And so that's really a good thing. Now, the things that we're talking about today, you and I both know, 10 years, you couldn't buy a conversation about the constitutional limits of civil government. You couldn't get anybody to spend much time at all discussing or joining up with others to learn about our founding and founding principles. Nowadays, thanks to all of this corruption that is just totally in our face and very obvious, it's very easy, and there's millions of people getting that education and learning how we were intended to do civil order. And so that's what we have to do. One note about Washington, D.C., law enforcement happens at the county. Somebody said that all government is local. Well, law enforcement is local too. All true law enforcement is local. So Mr. Schumer and those types, my view is enjoy yourself because your days are numbered. We the people are rediscovering our organic rights, our authority under God and the documents that our fathers established, and we've been supposedly been living by. But you guys have been conning us, lying to us, cheating us, keeping us so busy we haven't had a chance to even think. But now we are. And many people across this great land are taking up the task and are committed to doing our duty and reining these people in. This is lawlessness. It's not politics, it's lawlessness.
And here's one thing, Steve.
It's not just disagreeing with some politician about some policy. This is breaking the laws, and it needs to be stopped.
The thing that once people come to the realization what's being done, and people are waking up to that realization every day, it's one of those things where you just, it's not like you're just going to let it go and you can just forget about it. Once you learn this and realize
you can't unlearn what you've learned.
Nope, you can't unlearn it. Not when it comes to this, because it's so vital. And I think that what they've done is they have awakened the sleeping giant, if you will, amongst the folks, and they are starting to find out more about their rights and their liberties, and they're coming together. And here's the thing, Steve, that they know this, right? They know this. That's why they constantly play the division card. Now it's discrimination against Asians, right? That's what it is now. It's women. They always want to divide us because they know that together, that if we become united, their days are numbered overnight. Forget about it.
Absolutely.
They're done right away. That's why they can't. That's why they have to continue to sow division. That's why they have to use trauma-based mind control with the masks and the COVID, and you're going to drop dead and all that stuff. This is a total psychological dictatorship. They completely are using mind control techniques and fear tactics to control the population. And you know what? It's just as simple as us, and I've said it on my show before, Steve. We can talk about the militia here, bring that up in a minute. But we don't have to, in my view, we don't have to break out arms. We don't have to grab baseball bats, tire irons. We don't have to harm anybody. All we have to do is just say, we're not going to participate any longer. No, we're done. We're done. We're not going to participate. If we just did that en masse and got together and did that, we wouldn't have to fire a shot. We just quit.
That's right.
We just quit doing it. That's all we have to do.
Absolutely. I've been saying for decades that they need us way worse than we need them.
Sure. Yep, you're absolutely right. Well, let's touch on this here, Steve. Let's touch on the militia, American Militia 2.0, a new beginning. Now, this word scares people. The militia, the M word scares people. You know this. It makes them start believing all the government propaganda that they put out about, things that go bump in the night and boogeymen in the closet when they start talking about the militia. We know this is false. As I said, I've had Edwin Vieira on the show numerous times. I've interviewed Edwin. He's a brilliant man, got a brilliant mind. I just interviewed James Yeager here a couple of weeks ago. They work closely together. That whole crew and that whole crowd who I'm talking about here, great men, every one, and solid on the Constitution. Tell us, if you can, here describe what the militia really is, Steve, to sort of take some of that mystique away from it and some of that some of the shade that's been cast on the word militia. Break it down, and it's really the only as far as I remember, it's the only police, quote unquote, police force, I guess you could say, that's mandated in the Constitution. It's the only one mentioned, right? Kalispell police, not mentioned in the Constitution. It's not. They're not there. Or your local, your local municipality, not mentioned. But the militia is. Steve, give us a background on the militia and tell us why it's so important, please.
Well, if it weren't for the militia, there'd be no America as we know it, right? I mean, we had a ragtag group of colonial militiamen throw off the tyrant that we knew as King George III, right? I mean, if it weren't for militia, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation. America wouldn't exist. There wouldn't be a constitution as we know it. There certainly would have been no Declaration of Independence. So the enemies of truth and liberty and goodness and the enemies of God always, when they can't just flat out come and kill people and get rid of them that way. They've tried that many a times. That usually backfires, by raising up more of the kind of people that see their wickedness. So then they just muddy up the story. They twist the words. They take words and through the media, through their educational systems and so on, they play word games, word war, basically. Well, the militia, there's 4 militia clauses in our United States Constitution. So any elected official that wants to trash talk the militia, he should be just removed from office, because he's confessing that he's not interested in supporting the Constitution that he swore to protect and obey, right? I mean, how can you trash talk and try to destroy a significant part of the document that you swore to protect and obey? So that's the first thing. The second thing is there's a lot of good Americans have participated in militias or tried to restore or configure, rebuild the ancient local militias, well-meaning people, but there's been a lot of misunderstanding among those well-meaning people. And there's also been, I believe, some not so righteous influences probably sent in by our enemies, the enemies of God and liberty, to twist and turn and cause these things to go off the rail. Many of them will just go off the rail because of lack of experience or knowledge and stuff. So just because that, we don't throw out the term just because it's been abused or maybe misused, misunderstood, like a lot of things. Freedom of speech, as we talked about. I mean, there's a lot of abuses and misuses, but we don't ban it just because there's some people that don't respect, it in the right way. So tactical civics is educating and training and teaching people about the historic militia. And like I say, it predated our country by, hundreds and hundreds of years. It's the local law enforcement arm of we the people. Now the militia can't really do anything without the grand jury. The grand jury is the judicial power of the people. So you can't have the militia power of the people going out arresting people or doing anything, without the proper marching orders from the judicial side of we the people. Okay, people have to understand that. Tactical civics is the first time these two things have been put together like they are. There's been a lot of citizen grand jury activity, which again has failed or gotten off the rails for much the same reasons that the militia has. So this probably scares the pants off lawbreakers, especially lawbreakers that are power hungry, and their lust for power and over people just can't be satisfied. And so it probably scares the pants off them because they know that when we the people stand up, put a stop to it, that they're gonna lose what they've stolen. So it's just pretty much like the old bully on the playground, until somebody stands up and does something about the bully, he's going to pretty well pick on whoever he wants, right? So that's doing our duty. So the term militia shouldn't scare people any more than the term rights or liberty or free exercise or any of those other phrases that are in our Constitution.
Well, I concur, sadly, because they've done a this is a psychological control apparatus that they put in place, and they ramp up the fear, of course, with they show the building there, the Murrah building, and its destruction, and then they keep saying the militia, the militia, the militia, the militia, and you say that stuff over and over again so many times. I mean, you're probably a student of history. You're probably familiar with the work of guys like Edward Bernays, who wrote the book Propaganda. How
Absolutely.
You realize that it's easier to control, believe it or not, folks, it's easier to control more people than it is to control fewer people. I know that sounds like it's kind of an oxymoronic, but yeah, they found out ways to control entire populations, and you can see some of that stuff in play with the whole mask debacle that's been going on this last year. They've really found a way. I have to say, they're evil geniuses, Steve. I hate to give them credit, but man, these people are evil geniuses, the way that they've been able to just, like, for example, as I put it on the show, they've somehow been able to override logic and have feelings be what people are basing their decisions on, not like facts and logic. Like, for example, and I'll pass it over to you, and I want to go down the whole rabbit hole with the mask, but on the very box it says does not protect against COVID-19. On the actual box, I did a show on it, said it right on the box. Doesn't matter. You got to have one on, even though it says it doesn't protect against it. It's complete separate logic, and I never see anything like it, Steve. But thankfully, as you stated, there's a whole nother segment of the population that are going, yeah, no, we're not buying it anymore. This is all a sham. This is all a con. and we are taking our country back. And so that's who we're focusing on. The other people that are sort of caught into the sheep mentality, hopefully they'll come across here. They'll come over to the light here soon enough. But we just need to keep hammering every day, Steve. Would you not agree? Because evil never rests. Evil never rests on it 24/7. Over to you.
Well, as the saying goes, all it takes for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing.
You are correct, sir. Very well put.
Evil has its way more in a vacuum when we, or the righteous, those who love God or love their fellow man, get so busy chasing, their material wealth or their recreational things. And nothing wrong with any of that. But when we neglect what we're called to do, what we're given to do, and that is to keep our servants obeying the law, when we neglect that for generations, this is what we have. So I like to avoid talking too much about or blaming too much on the errant teenagers. Like my analogy, you can't blame the teenagers. Yeah, they're culpable and they're responsible for the damage they're doing in the neighborhood and so on in the town. But you have to look at who was supposed to be ruling over them and training them and teaching them and keeping them from becoming troublemakers.
That's right.
So we're the parents. We need to look at ourselves, and that's the one thing, probably the biggest thing that led to my decision to step in and be the state coordinator for tactical civics, because that's the emphasis. It's we the people that have spent, we love to gripe about, we love to talk about the last thing that some politician or some law enforcement agency did that we don't like or we thought was wrong or so on. But we need to just look at ourselves. Well, how have we the people been doing in keeping our servants accountable to the law that they are duty bound and under law to obey? We've let them run roughshod over it. And usually, this is something that I'm going to be talking about Tuesday at our meeting in East Helena. They bought us off with favors, with trinkets, with little, promises of favoritism and so on and so forth. We have to repent. We, the people, have to get right with God, get right with ourselves, and repent from these behaviors. Taking money that doesn't belong to us, taking money that's been stolen from other people or intimidated out of them or threatened out of them, taking favors by these servants. We've been bought off. We need to confess that, repent from it, and get busy and doing our duty. So we can talk about the lawlessness of Congress and many things going on in state palaces around the country, but we really need to talk about what we've not done, how we've neglected our duties. We've been derelict as well. We like to blame our servants, but we need to look and say, well, who let it go on? Well, our parents, our grandparents, and so on, all the way back. And we do have a little bit of out there, is that all of us alive today were born into this, and we were trained by our enemies, basically, by the enemies of liberty, the enemies of God, those that are self-seeking and self-serving, those that have greed and lust for power and money. We were trained by them in our educational systems. So, but now we know. Now we see how ugly it is. We talk about the swamp. It's more like a sewer. I kind of like swamps. They're filled with life and good stuff.
Yeah, right. There's a stench, man. There's a stench.
I just call it a sewer. But now we see what the problem is, and everybody should see this. I can't imagine how anybody, Democrat or Republican or just completely, just leave me out of politics type folks, I can't see how anybody can be pleased with the way America is going. So peace and liberty, the protection of our property and our liberties. Who can be opposed to that?
Yeah, there's many, sadly. Steve, we're just coming to the end of the interview here. Let's give out, once again, the websites for people and where they can find out more about it. And I was wanting, folks, kind of touching on what Steve said here. There's going to be no call from headquarters. Don't expect it. It's time to act now. The person you're looking at in the mirror, that's who needs to act. That's who needs to act. No one's going to be calling you up. There's not going to be anybody going to be sending you letters and begging you. It's not going to happen. It's time. If you're looking for orders from headquarters, consider this them. It's time to act. It's time to get in the game. Because if you don't, they're going to take away our country. Steve, any closing comments you'd like to make, and websites and stuff you want to give out before we go ahead and close?
Well, for those that are in the Helena area or anywhere you can drive to Helena, join us at Canyon Ferry Road Baptist Church. It's 2284 Canyon Ferry Road out in East Helena. That's Tuesday, April 6th at 7 p.m. And I'm going to just be giving a introductory presentation on pretty much an overview of tactical civics and answer questions that people may have. So join us there if you want. But the website, the YouTube videos, pretty much tell you everything that you'd like to know about tactical civics. Again, don't expect the unruly teenagers to just all of a sudden get an idea that maybe they should, fix up the things that they broke, patch the drywall, fix the car, and and do it all out of their own pocket by themselves. That's not going to happen. As you said, this is the call to duty, and I'm very positive about it. I'm very positive about our future. The Lord in His Word says that the wicked dig pits for the righteous, but God causes them to fall in them themselves.
That's
right.
They
set snares for the righteous,
That's right.
and then get caught up in them themselves. And these wicked elements in our culture, and trust me, they're just as the letter behind their name doesn't mean much.
Nope.
If their hearts are pursuing their own interests, and they love lies, and they love power, and so on, it really doesn't matter which letters behind their name. So it's up to us. It's time to go to work. As David Zuniga says, it's time to, do our chores. And this is not an overnight thing. People need to realize we got in this 150 years into it. It's going to take some time and some effort, some dedication, and some sacrifice to fix it. So join us, the website, tacticalcivics.com. And as I say, let's get to work and fix this mess.
Wise words there by Steve Wagner from Tactical Civics. That's indeed, folks. Let's get to work and fix this mess. Steve, we so much appreciate you taking time to come on the show with us here once again. And if anything else, comes up, or any information comes out, or you have another conference that you want to come on and talk about, just drop me a line. Be happy to have you on the show again. Keep up your great work, my friend, and we do appreciate you. And thanks so much for coming on today.
All right. Thank you, Jim, for having me on.
You're welcome. God bless, Steve. Take care. Okay, folks, there goes Steve Wagner. We appreciate him being here on the show with us today. If you want to support this broadcast, you can go to MontanaGazetteRadio.com. MontanaGazetteRadio.com. These interviews will all be uploaded on the Rumble channel, and we're going to continue to work hard to get around the censorship here, because it's bad. It's bad all around, but it certainly is bad for us here, and it's been bad for a lot of people that are conservative. So continue to support us and spread the video around, and we do appreciate your support. We're so thankful for our guest Steve Wagner coming on here on the show today, and we do appreciate you tuning in. Again, MontanaGazetteRadio.com, MontanaDailyGazette.com, or the flagship northwestlibertynews.com. Till next time, this is James White for Montana Gazette Radio, saying bye now.
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.